we're dealing with a lot of the country that is given over to imagination. Howdy, folks. Welcome to the Virtue Signal. I'm Alfonso Rachel with my buddy Bill Whittle. And Bill, I caught your latest Stratosphere studio. You know, I kind of
we call that the cheer, the good cheer and technical excellence episode of the Stratosphere Lounge, which shot yesterday.
Good cheer. All right,
what a nightmare.
Is that what we're calling it? All right. Hey, I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot, man.
Sure.
You know, what happened to the Stratosphere Lounge?
Last time?
No, the Stratosphere. Is it still the Stratosphere Lounge? Because I'm seeing Stratosphere Studios.
Yeah, it's still the Stratosphere Lounge.
Okay.
We do Stratosphere Lounge on Thursday nights, and then we do Stratosphere Studios for the pop culture stuff on Monday. That's a new addition. We've done 2 of those.
Okay, I'm late then. I'm sorry, man, because the Stratosphere.
No,
that's chic. I love that name, man. The Stratosphere.
Thank you
Lounge.
very much.
Yes. And you seemed a little down and
burned out.
Did you need to talk about it? You know, Bill, you feeling better, man? You feeling good?
I seem to be feeling a little better than yesterday. I don't like it when let me put it to you this way: the Stratosphere Lounge has always been a direct conversation with people who are I consider to be friends, and I have a live comment feedback thing. So that show is about me interacting with the people in the comment section. And even though only 70, 80, 100 people sometimes watch it live, 2,000-3,000 occasionally watch it on YouTube. So that whole dynamic isn't there for most of the people that watch it. But for the people, but for me, it's a chance to actually interact with people. I don't get a chance to do that very often, believe it or not. You're probably my best friend. You're certainly one of my best friends, and you're halfway around the world in frickin' Texas. So sometimes, since that show is so informal and so personal, and since I've talked about so many personal things on that show, and it seems to do a lot of good for people to hear things about like clinical depression or 12-step programs, something like that. I started the show last night as we record this, fired it up, and I can talk about anything, obviously, but I didn't feel good, and I didn't feel any energetic. I didn't feel enough energy to be angry about things. Since it's been getting worse for me for months now. As I mentioned on the show, I took a pretty big emotional hit a month ago now, and there are some things that I don't talk about, and that's one of them. But really, to be honest with you, Zoe, the thing in front of Independence Hall that Joe Biden did filled me with despair, not fear. I can manage that. I can manage my concern about where he's going with this. Just the fact that he did it and the slander of it, that slander of Republicans live in fear and darkness and are dedicated to violence and don't respect the rule of law. I mean, coming from this guy was just really hard. And the abortion porn episode we did was really disturbing to me, not just for the content, although God knows it was that too. The fact that people like that are out there and that they feel like not only is this okay to talk about, but that they're going to get a lot of kudos for it, a lot of love for it. I 100% believe in free speech. I think these individuals have a right to talk about whatever they want to, and I'm not trying to shut them down. But the fact that they were talking about what they were talking about in such a gleeful, celebratory manner made me feel really, really dirty and sad. And again, just kind of sometimes despair hits a point where you become just, lethargic, apathetic. It's not even apathy. It's not like I don't care. It's just I can't seem to find the energy to do anything about it. And I am 100% convinced that this is precisely the goal that the people who are doing this are aiming for.
Yes, indeed, man. It's like, this is what you want to do with your freedom. It's like you want to go and use your freedom. Because, where they're coming from isn't even freedom. It's just some sort of spoiled, rotten, entitled exercise.
Yeah, it's a constitutional right that they have.
I mean, it's supposed to be really the First Amendment is supposed to be about the freedom to have a redress, of grievance. It's like, look, and you can call out your government and say, hey, you are at odds with our rights. We got that. But these people are just taking it to just be vulgar. I could say whatever I want and be as vulgar as I want. And they don't care about the effects that it has on society. And it most certainly does. And these things, they get really, taxing. And for us, folks may, be like, we'll take a break, take a vacation. I don't think I've ever had a vacation. And it's not.
I was trying to remember one on the show. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I can't remember the last time I was gone for more than 4 or 5 days. I was in Cancun with Natalia, and that was in 2019, like 3 years ago. Somebody said you were away for 2 weeks when you had COVID. I thought, that's right. Yes, of course, that's right. That was my last vacation. Was my COVID experience when I was in bed for 11 days. So it's true. I have had a vacation.
Yeah, a vacation that worked on you. Yeah, I don't see how that works out too good, but it's like, but no, it's to be able to take a break from this. And what really is insulting a lot of times, when you is when people tell you like, well, get a real job. It's like, well, can you, those are things that they start to make you tired too. It's like, well, can you define what a real job is? Like, what sort of job do you expect me to be able to have? I mean, in this line of work, not only is it a job, it tends to employ people as well. But it's one of those things that when you have this thing where you are the product, you are the business, you can't like really stop. And part of what's tiring about it is, we really dig our sense of patriotic duty. We do this because we feel like we have something to share, to offer something thought-provoking and practical to promote in the culture. And we want to do our part. And we have a creative means and a manner of illustrating verbally, what it is that what we're trying to do to our part to help preserve the republic. But there's other means that we would like to be able to do it. And it gets really tiring when you're kind of held in this box, when you have, you're held down by one faction. You already got the social media platforms and all that's keeping you down and keeping you from getting your voice out there because they don't want the truth that's out there. And then you have another faction that just ignores you because all they want is the red meat and they want to listen more to provocateurs and people who are just going to stoke their pride and their anger and give them a whole bunch of information and have them go out there to be motivated to be angry, but not really give them what it needs, the finesse to make their dispatch of the information that they have really stick. But often they end up going out there and sabotaging themselves. And I've been trying to say that for a long time, as long as I've been doing this. So like, hey, Republican voters, too many of you are giving the Democrats everything that they need to do the damage that they do. And rather than, paying attention to that, they ignore it. And a lot of them has thrown me under the bus. And it's really demoralizing and it's tiring because
that's
it's like
the word.
Because you don't want to give up. You don't want to give anybody the satisfaction, but I'm just like seen as the bad guy, for being on this crusade against the Confederacy, whom people take as me having some beef with the South, which
were you getting a lot of that?
Which I don't. It's like I've never said I had beef with the South. My beef is with Democrats, period. Who was the Confederacy? You got people out saying that the communists have taken over the White House. No, they didn't. The Confederacy did. And they had help from the Republican Party to do it. Now, that's blasphemy coming from me, but I'm trying to tell, it's like, y'all, who do you think they are? That same Democrat Party that's in there right now. These people who are trying to, who are hung up on race. These same people who are trying to get into everything that you got and want to basically make slaves out of you. You see, it's like the Democrat Party has not changed. They're the same people. You can't just take what you think the Confederacy was and make it your own truth. That's what Democrats do. Yeah. And I'm trying to say, stop helping these because these people are destroying us and you're helping them do it. And it's tiring. It's like, man.
That's another good word.
It's spiritually draining. It's mentally draining. And it's draining people's pockets. These people are doing a lot of damage.
these obviously comes and goes and stuff, but I have to tell you the honest truth here. The first time I heard this emotion, the real specific emotion that we're talking about, first time I ever heard it come out of anybody was several years ago when I was much more prominent. And the person I heard it from was you. We hadn't seen each other for a while. We caught up with each other, and I said the same thing that everybody else had been saying to you. Hey, man, what made you give up doing the videos? And you said, I haven't given up doing the videos. I do one every week or whatever. No one's watching them anymore because YouTube has dialed me down. And I thought to myself, man, that's got to be rough. And then a few years go by, and then I find out, no, it is rough, because that's certainly what's happening to us now. It's very, very hard for me to watch something that I put a lot of effort into, like a firewall or something, and get 14,000 views, when, you'll look at somebody unwrapping a microphone. Hey, look, I just got the new Rode, and it's 720,000 views. It's hard. Mm-hmm. And when people ask things like, well, why don't you do more, firewalls? It's like, because of the amount of work that they take and the amount of views that they get, it's become, I don't want to say it's become cost ineffective, because that's essentially the product that this shop puts out. But from an emotional point of view, it's really, really, really hard. And this is why when I did that invisible thing, when I talked about the audience of the people, when I talked about the audience of the people who are tremendously successful in this sphere, right? Steve Crowder and Ben Shapiro and all these guys, and how good their numbers are relative to our numbers, it's still 5% of what gaming and pop culture channels get. And as you mentioned before, I not only do I want to move into that space, I think somebody has to move into that space, and we just don't have the financial resources to do it. And for me, what it's like is, it's like sitting on the third baseline watching a professional baseball game and watching a pitcher having some trouble, and knowing that I go home every day and I can throw a 112 mile an hour fastball, mm-hmm. And I'm stuck here in the stands with my little pennant, rooting for the good guys. But I want to get on the field, and if I could get on the field, if I could really just get on the field, I could really show them what I'm capable of and what the team would be capable of. And so sitting there in the stands, essentially with your hands against the glass, it's really hard. And look, man, the ultimate quality of success, of heroism, of beating the odds, of good versus evil, it's not bravery, and it's certainly not victory. It's how well do you handle defeat and setback. It's been said 100 million times. I just wish more people would listen. I certainly pay attention. This is my philosophy. It doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. It just matters you get back up again. And I know this feedback that you've gotten really knocked you down and took the wind out of you, and you just want to say, did you not even listen to what I was saying? There's nothing worse than fire that hits you from the rear. That's the most that makes me want to hang up the thing every single time I get somebody saying, I used to be a supporter of yours. I've been supporting you for 15 years, and then you said something I disagree with, and now you're dead to me, right? Yeah, that's like, what? Let's just close this whole thing up. I'm gonna go work at an ad agency, and I'll write jingles for Soda Pop. So it's not a question of how often you get knocked down. It's a question of whether you get back up again. And here we are, both of us. We've both been in better shape. We've both been in better moods. We've certainly both been in better financial situations. We've both been in situations where things weren't nearly as precarious as they are for both of us. And here we are doing our shows like we do every week, right? Because not to put too fine on it, pal, but because we're men, right? Mm-hmm. This is manning up. Yes. It's like, I find that talking about it helps me, and not only helps me, it also takes an enormous amount of pressure off of me to hear from members saying, Bill, it's okay. I really need to hear that, because my emotional kind of substrata is, if I don't keep all these plates spinning all the time, everything's going to come crashing down. So hearing that kind of feedback that we got from the Stratosphere Lounge really did me a lot of good. But all of this pity party stuff is fine and useful. And what we're doing right now, you and me, we just happen to be doing it in front of other people, because hopefully people in the audience are going through this too. This is why we're talking about this, because we could have this conversation in private if we wanted to. Despair, disillusionment, apathy, lethargy, hopelessness, that is the objective. And it is being deployed against us by people who are unbelievably skilled in this and who are not afraid to put their money where their mouth is when it comes time to destroy the country. George Soros put $43 billion into this, just him, right? We have to fight this by essentially just, begging people for $9.95 a month. The previous show that we did this week was called Dignity. I find it a little degrading, to be honest with you. It's just how I was raised. Now part of that is my own internal thing, right? Part of that is like, I'm not selling you a shoe. If I was selling you shoes and you were giving me money, I'd feel fine with that. If I was selling you shoes and you didn't give me money, I wouldn't give you shoes. And so part of it is kind of like, I don't know if I really understand or appreciate the value of something that's out there for free, right? It doesn't cost anything to watch the Virtue Signal, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a tough thing to charge people for. You know what I mean? Sure. That's just kind of one of the issues I have with the business end of it. But look, everybody out there is feeling this now. And when you and I talk about it, it helps, I think. Helps other people. I know talking about things like suicide, which is not something I ever really considered, but I've been around a number of people who have. And when you hear from people who say you actually saved my life, it's like, okay, well, that's enough to get me going again. But look, man, here we are, right? We're in the fight. We're going to stay in the fight. We're not going anywhere. But there are times when the situation, either intentionally on the part of the left or just an alignment of random events, can really knock you down. So my feeling on that is, might as well let our friends out there and our allies know, yeah, there are times when we really get knocked down, just like you do. We're not heroic all the time. We don't just sit there. No, we get demoralized by this garbage and this assault. But that's not the point. The point is we get back up again, and we will continue to get back up again until we can't get back up again. Not until we don't want to get back up again, because there's many times we don't want to, but we're going to get back up again until we can't get back up again. And after that, then we'll get back up again.
Absolutely, man. And the thing is, the gut punch, the thing that does knock you down, it's not because somebody has made some incredible argument that has made you feel like, oh man, I feel so devastated. It's like, no, the heartbreak and the knockdown is like, wow, you really believe that? You are basically making arguments that are emboldening the Democrats to use you, and you want to stick with that. And so what do you do? What do you do? And but the thing that does, and Bill, I gotta say, man, we got first world problems. I don't.
Yeah, that's the truth. No, that's the truth.
You know what I'm saying? There's people who are dealing with things far worse than us, and that's another one of the reasons that we keep going. It's like, look, man, we ain't got it that bad. We ain't got it like vets who've been in foxholes.
No, well said. Yes.
So it's like we don't forget those things, and that's another part of the heartache too, because a lot of our vets, they do get forgotten. And we try to speak to these things where it's like, hey, these people, what they went through to preserve this country, to help preserve this republic. And we're not holding ground here, and their sacrifice is just going by the wayside. That's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking.
That stuff makes you tired too, So, I keep going for the same motivation, that the founding fathers did. They had it hard. The things that they were up against for stepping out of line, man, the punishment that they would have faced, a little bit worse than Facebook jail.
Yeah.
But they said clearly why they did it. We pledge our lives, our sacred honor, appealing to the supreme judge of the world. That was their motivation. The Lord who is the freedom. He is the freedom. That's his first commandment. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, the house of bondage. It is my law that you are supposed to be free. So they're like, let's do that. You know, so that's my motivation to keep on going, and not give them the satisfaction of giving up. But it gets frustrating. I mean, the Lord himself knows all about it. His own countrymen, the people that he came to redeem, say, look, man, this is what's going down. Why do you guys keep killing the prophets who come to tell you the truth?
Yeah.
You know, what are you doing?
Can you imagine? It's impossible to imagine what God thought, but can you imagine how Moses must have felt when after all the sacrifice, all the work, all the miracles, everything, a lifetime of struggle not to free himself. He was a prince. He could have done anything he wanted. It wasn't about him. He was living up. He could have lived the best life on earth.
Yeah.
He goes to all of this lifetime of effort and all of the, I think people think like, here's a miracle. I'm going to make water come from a stone, or I'm going to part the Red Sea. And I think some people think like that doesn't cost anything, I just turn on a switch. No, it takes an enormous amount out of you. And all of that's worth it, except for what must he have felt, coming down from the mountain with these 2 tablets, and then see people worshiping a golden cow. He must have, any human being must have just said, I'm here. Knock yourselves out, right?
Yeah.
Knock yourselves out. I've done everything I can do. I'm done. Here's your, forget it. You know what? I'm just going to go back up, talk to the bush some more. I really don't want anything to do with you people. Now, I'm not talking about our people that way, but I am saying that is ultimately the most demoralizing thing is when you see the people that you love, and that's what drives us to do this, the love of the American people, the love of the Republic, and when you try to come to them with something that's difficult, and at the same time extremely clear, it's not complicated. It's just emotionally difficult in some cases for people to change their minds. You really got to think about what else do you want? I'm speaking about Moses now, right? Bread falling from the sky. I mean, it's not like I'm telling you you're going to see all these things. These things are every day not good enough, right? So as far as the Confederacy thing goes, to me, you telling me what happened, and especially the reaction of the guy who was selling the flags, that's the kind of reaction that we would hope to get, right? I wasn't aware that I was doing something destructive, and there are still many things that people associate with that flag that are in fact noble things like rebellion against a tyranny and individualism and all the other stuff, right? That's all stuff that I think most patriotic good people would be behind. I don't want to be stomped on, but to whatever degree that flag represents that, it is damaging. I think it was best put by Ulysses S. Grant, who we did our previous show on dignity, who was a remarkably dignified man, I think. And I think he said I think it was Grant who said something to the effect of, the Confederate soldiers fought for the Confederate cause with astonishing bravery and commitment, and it's a shame that it was one of the worst causes in human history. Something like that. And here we are. So slings and arrows come with a job, and like I said, when you're out there facing this monster, when you really are kind of David up against this Goliath of support and power and money that's coming to destroy the things that you love in terms of this country and its values. When you're out there facing this, you maybe you have a shield or armor or something, right, to protect you from where it's coming from. But that armor doesn't, and the shield certainly doesn't protect you from what's coming from behind. That's why those things sting so much, I think.
Indeed, they do, man. And it would be so great if people could see that the Democrats, they're always accusing people of tyranny. That doesn't change with them.
That's what Joe Biden did on in front of Independence Hall. Accused us of everything that they do all the time. That's their standard operating procedure.
Absolutely. They're perpetual victims. They use the victim narrative. They've been doing that ever since the Confederacy. The Confederacy talks about they were victims of Northern aggression. Do people not see that the attitudes, the disposition of Democrats does not change? That's what they've always done. They're rebels in the White House right now. And they'll call you a tyrant if you say, look, man, you can't be intruding on a kid's right to live. Oh, you're a tyrant. But it's a human being, it's a person. Well, that attitude hasn't changed since slavery. Dude, you can't be enslaving people. You're a tyrant telling me I can't have slaves. It's the same thing. Democrats have always been that way. But it's unfortunate, man, and it's tiring when people just can't make the connection and they want to stick to this pride and take this symbol and change it into whatever they want it to mean. That's what Democrats do, making their own truth and co-opting things to make it mean whatever they want. And it doesn't turn out good. It's not a good thing to do. But, the thing is, Bill, we do this as opposed to, not so much as opposed to, we would like to be able to. It's just difficult to get the support to. Because, we got a lot of fire of actual things that we want to do to represent in the culture, not just do our own selfish vanity interest. We have things that do we want to proselytize in some things? Yes, we do. We would like to do them in more creative mediums, the way that the left has done. Not use them for defiling purposes, but this is a lot of how they've done the damage that they do to be able to create these narratives that capture people's attention. And when they got their attention, they can effectively lie to them. So we're trying to say, well, we need to be able to catch people's attention because they don't want to be reasoned with. They want to live according to their imaginations. Well, that's where you got to connect with them by their desire for something imaginative. And then from there, when you have their attention, deliver the truth to them. This is a big part of how we need to infiltrate the culture. And there's just the demand for that is so low coming from the party that claims to be the party of supply and demand. That's what we're supposed to be doing. The party that's supposed to be that loved Reagan for communicating. But at the same time, you have a party that you can't really effectively communicate when you want to be the party that just wants to be left alone.
Yeah. Let me just add one thing about that, right? Reagan was called the great communicator because he was able to swing so many people, Reagan Democrats, right? That was an enormous voting bloc. And he held it together for quite a long time. Republicans held it together for a while after he had left the scene. But why was Reagan the great communicator? It wasn't like Reagan was the great communicator because he was a politician. Reagan was the great communicator because he was an actor who became a politician. That's not to say that he was pretending when he was saying these things. It's that he had the rhetorical skill set to be able to take emotional and moral and philosophical issues and deliver the product. And so Reagan is the classic example of it. People may think like, oh, well, Reagan was a politician. This is why I don't know why you guys are so into this whole acting and pop culture thing. It's like, no, Reagan was a movie star. He was a movie star who had been known and loved to pretty much the entire population. People knew who he was. And when I say they knew who he was, I don't mean they just knew his name. They knew what Ronald Reagan was because of the movies he'd been in and the roles that he'd played, right? He's the Gipper, he's the lifeguard, he's all of these things. He's everything that you wanted. And when he became president, his ability, and governor, his ability to communicate wasn't something that came with the office. On the contrary, it was something that came with him from the beginning. And you would think that given the success of Reaganism and Reagan Democrats and what the electoral map looked like during the 80 and 84 elections, when you look at how much red there is there, you would think that would be a data point for people to realize we'd better find some people who can talk to people's hearts and emotions for the force of good instead of for the force of evil. It's all the data you really need. The most successful conservative that we have ever seen in terms of what the term conservative means, the most successful by far, was the one that came from the pop culture, was the one that was an actor. And maybe people think that that's shallow somehow. We see it in that you'll have a lot of Republican voters who cares what these celebrities think, which is a wrong question to ask because millions of people do. These people are influencers. It's not wise to shun the attention that these people get and the endorsement that they give of
you know, the tone of the people. It's like a feedback loop. They kind of,
exactly what it is.
Yeah, they answer to the tone at the same time they steer the tone. You know, so these are things that we're up against, and we don't want to play the shallow game, but at the same time, there are tools that you should use, not for defiling purposes or not for evil or anything like that, but there are tools that need to be used and need to be employed. Again, we're dealing with a lot of the country that is given over to imagination. Their imaginations about what's a person and what's not. Imaginations about your property, imaginations about your taxes, imaginations about the race narrative, imagination about women's rights, all these sorts of things. They're driven by these things, and most of the engine behind that is fear. So and when people are given over to things like that, assuming that you can reason with them is not really practical. You have to be able to tap into, like you said, that emotional conduit.
Yep.
Visually, auditorially, that's a word. You know, you got to be able to tap into these things and stimulate that emotional imagination response. And when you've made that connection with them, where you relate to them, you've locked in with them, you can start delivering the truth through your narrative. It's okay to proselytize through your medium, as long as it's done, you know, with
for the force of good. Yeah, as long as you're doing good. Yes.
Yes, and the liberals have effectively done it, even with awful proselytizing. But the thing is that their inventory is always coming out. It doesn't matter if it's good. It doesn't matter if it's bad. It's always coming out. They inundate the culture with their ideology. And they're, in one way or another, they're going to capture somebody's attention with it. Maybe a crappy movie, but, you know, there may be a small population that'll like it, that'll buy it. That's a win for them. You know, so where's our stock? Where's our demand? Where's
our ammo? Where's our ammo? Where's our man? Where's our powder magazines?
Exactly. And, you know, I'm hoping, and, you know, it gets tiring, you know, even like wondering, you know, it's just like, wonder, man, look, when are we going to, you know, when can we, you know, achieve the support?
Put us in the game, man.
Yes.
You know, let me play, coach.
Right. Getting tired, just sitting on the bench.
Give me one inning. Let me pitch one inning.
Right. Who would have thought that just sitting down could make you so tired? You know, but I mean, it's not like we're just sitting here. We're you know, we're trying to, you know, do our part to be movers and shakers as far as this goes. But, you know, you really do get put in a place where you're just put into a box. And it's like, how do you do, you know, anything else? You are the product. You know, this is what you do. So, you know, folks, all that to say, you know, of course, you know, we're not talking about throwing in the towel, and we hope that, you know, we don't sound like, you know, we're playing, you know, victims here. We certainly don't want to sound like Democrats. But there are things that we're discouraged with, you know, which I reckon you are too. You feel, you know, a sense of maybe abandonment, you know, maybe sometimes a sense of betrayal and things like that. We understand, you know, we feel that too. It's like, what's happened to the Republican Party? It's being taken over by this, that, and whichever, while we're talking about taking our country back. And there's things that really need to be taken back on smaller scales before we can even do something so ambitious to be able to do it. But one of the major things that needs to be done, and what the Democrats have done, a couple of things that Democrats have done, is that they have controlled the race narrative. That's their Death Star, folks. That's their Death Star. And unfortunately, Republicans aren't delivering X-wing fighters to go and take out the Death Star. They're bringing supply ships to the Death Star.
We don't need too many of them either. We just need a handful.
It's like, stop doing that. And Democrats control the media. It's like you can you know, from not just news and entertainment, but social media. They are the gatekeepers of the internet now. It's like, man, what a horrible mistake it was to let the internet fall into the hands of the UN or whichever. Right? It's like we don't have that anymore. So it can't just be about social. We need search engines. We need social media platforms. It would be nice. But it'd be nice if you're not dependent on platforms like Amazon and Google and all that sort of stuff to be able to have your site, because they can pull the rug out. Look how deep the Democrats have gone. And we've been warning about this for years. Bill, we said, hey, you're giving the Democrats too much. Even right now, being here on YouTube, we hate it. We hate it having to be dependent on them. But, you know, we're having to play in the enemy's backyard. So, folks.
Yeah, we trusted them.
Yes.
And that was a big mistake when they said, this is a free speech platform. You say whatever you want to.
Yeah. And, you know, and I'm not saying it's too late to change anything, but
no, it's never too late, man.
Yeah, as long as as we're living and breathing. But you know, the Democrats want a civil war, but we're the violent terrorists. But see what I'm saying, folks? You see who plays on people's imaginations? Are they reasonable people? No. So we can't reason with them, but we can appeal to their imagination somehow. So just imagine where that can go, if you will.
Yeah, imagine.
Oh man, did we just? I hope I didn't put the song "Imagine" in people's heads.
No, it never occurred to me until just a second. We'll edit that out.
Yes. Okay. Good plan. Whoo. All right, folks. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Virtue Signal. I'm Alfonso Rachel, my buddy Bill Whittle. Thank you guys. We'll see you.